Good night. Welcome or welcome back. Tonight's topic, as you can see on the screen, is about marketing part two. Last week we did marketing. As I said, this is a part two to that. And a heads up for week 10 next week, that will be on either funding or selling online. So, say like Amazon, Etsy, drop shipping, print on demand, questions I get asked about. But I mean, if you guys have a preference, you could let me know. I got some serious OCD. If you have a preference, you could let me know. If not, I would just, I don't know, flip a coin and choose because whichever I don't do next week will come the following week. Unless something, I don't know, major comes up, some other topic. But in terms of today, as you can see on the screen, PIN equals easy sales. So tonight, that's what we will be getting into in terms of, how people often ask why people are not buying. It's because sometimes we like are very determined to sell what we like instead of what people are actually asking for one way or the other. So tonight we're going deeper on marketing. I get sidetracked a lot in my head. Just so y'all know, I have to filter so much during this live chat because a million thoughts are going through my mind. So some of them I fight off. Majority, like 99% of the distracting thoughts I fight off. No lie. But some win. One of the ones that just popped in my head is that my own brother, my own flesh and blood, looked at me and said, I like how your weekly sessions are coming along, but your background is a little plain. And I was like, yeah, he's not wrong. But funny enough, this is my personality. I love minimalistic. I don't know what I would change. I know people put up this stuff in the background, but unless somebody sponsors that or sends me something, I'm not buying that stuff. This literally is my personality. So I couldn't even say anything but like nod along and smile and not in pain. But I was like, damn. Anyway, the truth is, when it comes to marketing, most people don't have a marketing problem. They have a thinking problem about marketing, meaning how they see it. So if you don't fix that, as I was saying, you'll just keep posting, trying different things, fiddling around here and there. Nothing's wrong with that if you have the time for it. But it's rare that you'll be seeing any progress and you'll be there stuck wondering why nothing is working. So the visibility and reality chat, let me give you a real example. One boss of mine, if we were you could be in conversation with him real time, and if you dropped a name of a person or something that he didn't know, he would be googling like real time. And that is a quick example of where the world is at and has been at for a while. Um, Online. So again, nothing's wrong with offline. There are different strategies or the same strategies that work for that too. But people search for things online. That's how people behave now. So if I hear a business name or something that I don't know, first thing I'm doing is Googling. And if you're not online, you're pretty much invisible. So the question I would have for you guys is, if somebody is searching for you, what are they finding online? Um, because no one is checking phone books just like that anymore. Not the physical ones. I see some sometimes and I'm like, oh wow, I love the nostalgia. But no one is sitting flipping through phone books just like that. Everybody has a smart device or a laptop, something that they're just searching on quickly and they're using it to search online. So if you're not there, you're pretty much invisible and you're losing opportunities that you don't even know about because you're not there online. People can't contact you, and if they can't find you, they move on to the next person who they do find online. And that should tell you very quickly and easily that it's rarely a case where um, sometimes the best people are not even the ones being found. So I'm sure just about everybody has an example of someone they know in their lives who's so good at this particular thing, whether it be, I don't know, woodwork, metalwork. Why can't I think of good examples? I should have planned that part. Anyway, building houses. Oh, you know what is a good example? Why am I talking like I'm not talking into this camera? Anyway, a good example is when my brother was putting on his stage play, which started last December and ran into January. Um, one of the things we were struggling to find is a carpenter. Because believe it or not, we tried friends and family calling around, and everyone had the same horror stories. They were like, I know carpenters, but I don't know any good ones, or this one just screwed me over, or like horror story after horror story. Do you know what it would be like if I'm sure you know at least one good carpenter, somebody that's good at that kind of work in your life. If they were findable, they would be getting easy money because look how many people have painful problems. And we will get to the pain points and the pain thing that I mentioned soon. Anyway, but in terms of positioning and some real examples, I wanted to make it real with some examples that are from right here in Barbados because people think the strategy is complicated, but it doesn't have to be. It can actually be simple, but it does require discipline any way you slice it. And I chose three local examples that I like that I think show a good range. So the first one I chose is yellow meat. For those who don't know about it, you must not be a foodie like me. So sorry, but um, I often no, no, let me not talk about me. People go there to buy breadfruits, roasted breadfruits, and they're selling something that's actually a niche product. So if you think about it strategically, or just think about it, a breadfruit is not something that you wake up with on your mind 24/7 that you need to survive. It's not air, it's not water. You don't need a roasted breadfruit. Do people want them? Yes. So that is a good indicator that it's more of a niche product actually than like a necessity product. But in terms of how they have positioned it, I chose this example as one about positioning because they've positioned themselves very well. Where if you go to their website, I think it's yellowmeat.com. Let's go with that. But if you Google yellow meat, I always say Google is idiot proof. You can't really miss. So that's YELLUH meat. And if you search for their website, you would see it's a very simple, straightforward website. And their branding colors and everything is they're consistent, but it is clear, meaning they have big and bold or the button. Their menu is actually very simple. So their base is roasted breadfruit, and they have a few other products from there, like they saw tacos. I buy the breadfruit, so I mean, I don't look for the other stuff, but they do have a couple other items, but they keep it pretty simple and streamlined. And then they have some different toppings you can get for the breadfruit bowl, like say pickled pigtails, barbecue pigtails, pulled pork, some other stuff, tuna, and then a couple add-ons like butters and what's it called, like salsa and those other toppings. But it's pretty much simple, repeatable products, and you know what you're getting when you go shopping there, pretty much. So that's it. They keep it very simple, and one of the key points is that they're not trying to do 50 or 100 different products and change up the menu daily. And a good bonus note is that they also have um, a mailing list, which I'm on. I don't know how, but I'm there. They have a mailing list where they would send out their promotions and everything. So they have a direct connection to their audience, the people who have already bought. And like I said, the consistent branding. But the key point I was getting at is that they're not trying to have every single item on their menu, like chips and well, I think they have breadfruit chips, so that's different. They have breadfruit items, but they don't try to sell pasta and pie and rice and chicken and all those things along with their baseline product. Could they? Sure. Would it benefit them? Probably not, because people can get that anywhere. So as I said, it's more of a niche product, but they have done a great job in terms of their branding and positioning that makes it easy to just order, buy, say yes to it. And where a lot of people go wrong, especially beginners, and I had a recent run-in with this up to like last weekend, where people are starting out in a food business or any business, and their first instinct is, okay, yeah, I want to be different. Different is not bad, just so we're clear. However, certain things work for a reason. The principles don't change. In the case of most people starting out with food businesses, Sometimes I don't even tell them anything because I know some people have to go through that to learn for themselves first and then circle back, which is fine. Some people who want the lessons up front, if you're here listening, hopefully you're one of those ones. Don't try to do too much. Keep it stupid simple. Like, make it clear to the purchasing customers who you are, what you're selling, what they can get from you. Um, in the food business, especially, a lot of people I see, especially at beginner level, try to put, like I said, 50, 11 things on the menu. And then they quickly realize, oh, it's not easy to sustain these things because it means you have to track all that inventory. You also have to um, replenish all those things. If you have it on the menu, people expect you to have it. People don't want to then come and hear, oh, we don't have that, we don't have that week after week. So don't set yourself up for failure. You could do different things like the methods I mentioned last week, signaling, where you could, if you are unsure of what you want to sell, let's say you're somebody who knows how to do a bunch of things, then ask people what they want, plain and simple. Send out a little survey. The signaling I mentioned last week, I won't get into it now, but go check out that week 8 episode. But you can ask people if you are unsure, or even if you have a lot of different passions where, okay, you can make cheesecake and pie and pickled stuff, pickled shrimp and pork and all these things. Do they all need to be on the same menu? Not necessarily. Keep it stupid simple, as I'm saying, and just start simple. Even if you expand a little bit at some point, but all of that will make it times easier on you going forward. Boring still works. Boring will always work. Trust and believe. Um, so the principles don't change, as I said. The same things work modern day even. Another example, so the second one I had was Carter's. So Carter's General Store. They sell hardware and other stuff. Now, what they do really well is positioning and um, let's say position the visibility. So positioning is what I meant for the last one. But with Carter's, what I want to highlight about them is their visibility. So they're very active on their social media, and one of the things they do very well is they have like a couple running series, or they put out certain seasonal content, let's say for Christmas, and a couple others I've seen, maybe Independence. I know Christmas for sure. Valentine's, I saw one. That one might not be the best example. I don't think one of those Valentine's Day ones went down too well with the public. But anyway, they're generally good with their visibility. And even with that one that didn't go down too well for that Valentine's Day, I mean, it made them highly visible. So I guess it still fits in with my point. But the point is, they are very good at that visibility via the content that they put out on their social media page or pages. And they're not always saying buy this, buy this, buy this, but it does get the clicks that then lead to conversions. So I saw a recent one about some doghouse thing, and I'm sure, well, I saw a couple comments because I like to keep they say in mind. And I saw a couple comments and they were like, oh, I thought Carter's was selling dog houses. No, but it did the job to get the message across for what it was they were trying to do. But the point is, they're not saying constantly in your face, buy, 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 but because they're highly visible a lot of times or all the time. Sorry, I'm fighting off sinusitis if you hear me sniffling. But anyway, they stay top of mind because they're highly visible. So most times what would happen, despite other hardware stores being out there, if you're somebody especially who's not just like obsessed with hardware and you just want something to buy, I would bet money that when you do have something hardware related, Carter's is likely going to be the one to pop into your head because they've been at this for years. They do a good job with it. And I mean, you can't really go wrong from there. But even deeper to that, not all posts convert the same. And this is not just unique to Carter's. One of the things you would notice, just as a marketing tip, when you are, I mean, just literally go and check anybody's business page or even professional page, some personal pages. They all work the same way. Again, principles don't change. I would again bet money that if you click on any post where the person has their face visible, that will likely have more likes and or comments than a post about, say, the sunset, as lovely as that may be. and or a post about a cup or something else, some other object. And that's just how the human mind works. So people connect more with people and get the post with people by extension would tend to get more engagement than any static post or anything. So a graphic post tends to be lower engagement. A post with staff, using the Carter's example, is going to get higher engagement. You could look at their page, you could look at any other business page, you could look at any personal page. I would bet you money. Um, anyway, so the key point is people connect with people. So if you're stuck on your marketing, you may have to put yourself out there. It does always work better, especially if you're going for organic content, as opposed to ads. But even with ads, those kinds of posts will tend to do the same thing, just replicate on a bigger scale than if you're not running ads. But just on a side note, engagement alone does not equal sales, and that's the other mistake some people make in thinking. So people posts can get attention, sure, but strategy is still needed in terms of converting that attention into something. Trust me when I say there are people. I have used myself as the example. I have less than 1,000 followers on my professional IG page, and there are people I know with thousands of followers. You can go and do your own research. People out there that have millions of followers, and they would say, "I am struggling to make money." So if that doesn't tell you enough, I mean, let it sink in a little bit. So visibility brings attention. Yes, Cardis is a good example, but strategy turns it into sales. Um, and in terms of a supermarket example, I thought of for how it works in real life. When you go to the supermarket, none of us is thinking I'm leaving my house to go to the supermarket because I need gum. Like, no one does that. However, where gum tends to get its sales, and I don't know why the word gum is funny to me all of a sudden. Anyway, how it tends to get sales is because it's positioned right there by the cashier and it's an impulse buy. So most times when people see it, they go like, all of a sudden I need gum. Let me just grab this. But no one really left home on a mission with gum on their shopping list or on their mind. It's more like an impulse buy. So that is a good example about visibility and positioning all together. And it's right there by the chocolates and the snacks and the little add-ons that again would tend to be impulse buys when you're checking out from your main stock that you went to the supermarket for. But the positioning made you buy it even though you didn't plan to. And that is a good example of that. Is not just about being seen or anything. It's just being seen at the right moment, the right way. So anything can sell. It just depends on how it's positioned. And taking that same gum example, if that was still at the cashier but cost $100, I am sure that would change the way you felt about it, and if you would even feel inclined to buy it. So you could have these exact same placement and it won't sell at that $100 for that same little pack of gum. So positioning matters, but the pricing has to matter as well. So all these things you do have to keep in mind when it comes to marketing. Um, anyway, in terms of a third example I thought of, I want to use an individual. And there's this local songwriter called Pull the Trigger Boom. And I remember, well, first of all, I think that one is very smart in terms of that branding name. And when I first heard it, anyway, let me get to that. But the point is, she uses what I would label as like a kind of embedded marketing or tagging, where her name is literally said in the songs that she writes. So you would hear, and I'm sure some of you, at least the Bajans, have heard her name tag mentioned when you hear some soca songs, like it was like Pull the Trigger Boom. And I don't think I did a good job even saying that. Anyway, but I remember the first year when I was hearing this in certain songs, I was like, who's this person? And then that was before I even knew who it was, male, female. I had no clue. But when I found out, it connected instantly because I was hearing that repetition over and over and over again. So she didn't need ads. I didn't see any ads from her, but her name is embedded in the actual experience and the songs. So the best marketing doesn't interrupt, it integrates. I thought that was a really, really killer line. You're welcome. So in terms of that same example too, an added bonus was when I found out that it was a female. I was like, I love that in terms of her branding and marketing, because most people probably wouldn't expect that name to be a female, and it is this little slim girl. It was so adorable. I love that, honestly. Anyway, so now you can see in terms of Yellow Meat, that example was about the simplicity, predictability, consistency in the product selection. Carter's, that example was about visibility. And Pull the Trigger Boom, that was about like embedded marketing. So different strategies, same principle. That marketing is about how you position yourself. Boy, sometimes I'm like, anyway, easily distracted. Marketing is about how you position yourself in people's minds, one way or the other. And bringing it home, pain equals easy sales, as I have in the title. And that's because if you want easy or easier sales, solve painful problems. I can't say loud enough because I have sinusitis. For those of you who like corny jokes, you're welcome. Anyway, I can't say loud enough. If you want easy sales, you have to think about people's pain points. PAIN. And that's because pain equals easy sales. So, a simple example of what I mean is that a bottle of water, for example, could cost $5 normally. But let's say you are stranded in a desert and somebody came along and you hadn't had a drop of water in days. Most people would do anything at that point to get a drop of water. So let's say you had $1,000 in your pocket. On a normal day, I would be hard pressed to think that you would part with that $1,000 for that $5 bottle of water if you knew the cost. However, if you're stranded in the desert, that surely does change things in terms of perception and urgency and need and versus wants and all of that. I am sure you wouldn't waste a second thought handing over whatever money you had in your pocket for that same $5 bottle of water. And that because it just became priceless. Or as like if somebody said they had the antidote for something and you could have millions of dollars, I am sure you would part with it if you could stay alive for X amount of time more by buying the antidote. Anyway, so the same bottle of water becomes priceless. And why is that? Well, that is because the context changed, the urgency changed, and the pain increased. Pain in that case being like you need water in order to live, you know? And another quick example is about matcha. So my friend yesterday, one of my friends messaged me and sent this post by someone who's now opening a matcha shop in, well, I won't say where because I don't want it to come across like I'm bashing what they're doing, to each his own. But my friend was like, oh my gosh, like how many people are going to open matcha shops now? And I laughed because I understood what she meant in that she was like, how many more people are going to sell matcha? So I understood what she meant, but to be clear, nobody is wrong. If you love matcha, fine. If you want to sell matcha, also fine. But the real question for the business owner I would ask is it solving a real problem, a consistent or persistent problem, anything like that? Do people need it, or is it more like just a want? Is it closer to the gum end of things where it's more of an impulse buy or something like that? Or is it something that is just trendy? Is it something that you like or like right now? And better yet, is it sustainable when those bills start to hit for, like, say, the space rental and all of those things? Now, I wouldn't say that I know everything, of course, but I've seen it time and time again where people get excited about an idea they have and it's something they like or it stemmed from a hobby or it's their passion. But we'll get to those things. But my friend even said coffee would work better. And I actually agree because my friend's point was that coffee is more commonplace and would be a safer bet because more people already consume it. And again, I agree. So while the coffee option might seem boring and like, okay, well, everybody's doing it. Yeah, they're doing it because it still sells. So that's why. um, could you then take a couple coffee items and spice them up a couple different ways? I would probably go that route instead of branding the shop as a matcha shop. It might feel good in the moment or smart to go niche like that, but in a country like Barbados that is so small, people like novelty, yes, meaning when it's new, oh, people will come. People will check it out, but are they coming back? Are they going to be your loyal customers and not just loyal customers? Because you could be a loyal customer and say, I'm never buying matcha from another place. But how often are they buying? Is it going to sustain your business? Anyway, let me move on from that. The core teaching there is businesses, and like I said, that's where another point where a lot of people go wrong in terms of their business setup and strategy. They build businesses based on passion alone, excitement alone, and trends alone, or what they like only. But instead, you should be asking yourself things like, what problem am I solving? I've said this before. Like, who needs this, and will they come back? If so, how often? What are they paying for? Are they going to pay for it? Are they willing to pay for it? So, passion can start a business, but you need the strategy to sustain it. So, matcha is not wrong. That business is not wrong, but I'm a little worried all no for that business. That's not even being negative. I've just seen it enough times and the data doesn't lie. So, when you see or hear about stats that X amount of businesses close down within the first 6 months to a year, well, that's because that's how people are often choosing. So, will that matcha trend last? I'm not sure, but hey. So you also have to think, as I said, is it solving a real problem or a really painful problem, or is it just something you like? So in terms of pain logic, now getting into that, if someone has a painful problem, the more painful it is, the more they're willing to pay to solve it. So if you're thinking about sales and marketing and what makes it easier, I kept saying pain equals easy sales. The higher the pain, the easier the sales, or the higher you can sell things for if you want. People pay faster, they hesitate less, and they come back. So if you think about it, um, professions that tend to make more, like, I don't know, brain surgeons, heart surgeons, how many surgeries are they doing per year? I don't know, but everyone fetches a hefty penny. Again, I don't know if that was the best example, but the point is, yeah. There's also why we keep buying food. Now, food costs are not necessarily also high unless you live in this country, but at the same time, people will be back to buy food over and over again. So supermarkets are, they tend to stay in business quite long. Anyway, on the flip side, if you're selling things only like aesthetics and decor and niche products, then that's fine, but it tends to be harder. So unless you have simple product and positioning, like say yellow meat or something, it will tend to be harder. And if it's not urgent, again, it will be harder. So pain equals easy sales, and the more painful the problem, the easier the sales are. So the stronger the pain, faster the purchase. All these things, hopefully, you keep in mind and rewatch the episode. Um, so in terms of closing, if you take one thing away from tonight, just remember that marketing is not only being seen or just about being seen, but it's about understanding people, your potential target audience, and how their minds work. So, why are people buying from Yellow Meat? Why are people buying from Carter's? Why are people going to the same girls to write their songs? Um, like, I could be terrible at my job, or she could be terrible at her job, but if people are hearing her name over and over, they're likely going to think of her to write a song. And side note, just so we're clear, I think she's great at what she does. I do like the songs she writes. So that was just an example. But think about, again, some people that you know that are highly visible that might not even be good at what they do. Anyway, so you have to meet people where they are, with what they need and what they're willing to pay for. And the final line I had here, the easiest way to make money is to solve a real problem that people already have. Sometimes when I read notes I'm very impressed with myself. Anyway, if you want help figuring things out, then you can join the Wealth Circle. That's my free community, free for now, on School. I keep encouraging people to join while it's free. Bajans tend to be slow to take up technology, but that's why I'm on a mission that I'm on anyway. Or you can book a session with me. My website is terrialori.com. Or you could find me on any of my social media. Everything's pretty much at Terry Lori. So not hard to find. It would be sad if I was hard to find online after all that I've been preaching to you guys over all these weeks. So thanks very much for joining. We're now at 7:30. Thanks for the support.